And this week's video is brought to you by our own society at TFD. If you haven't joined yet, there is so much that you're missing. We have our monthly office hours with me where you get to ask me anything you want. We have our monthly book club hosted by my colleague Holly, where society members themselves choose the book they want and then we all discuss it together. We have tons of other stuff too, but perhaps most important is our monthly members only bonus video, which comes out one Tuesday every month in place of the video that's free for everyone. So if you haven't joined, hit that join button right below this video and we'll see you at the Society at TFD.
Hi, my name is Jamie. I am 26 years old. I am a product manager and I make $139,000 a year. And currently, I am a very enthusiastic resident of Hoboken, New Jersey.
And I'm George. I'm also 26 years old. I live in Jersey City, New Jersey, and I'm a software engineer.
And you make?
And I make $151,000. Sorry, I forgot about that part.
Okay.
Okay, I'll go first. How do you know each other? How did you meet?
We met at our first job ever out of school. So just a casual workplace fling.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Nothing else much to say.
We've been dating for about 3.5 years. We do not live together. We don't live together because as a woman in the workplace, I feel very adamant about establishing my independence and my ability to support myself financially and not feel like I'm in a relationship because it would make it easier on me financially. I had a single mother. I was raised by a single mom, so that plays a large role in why I feel like I wouldn't want to be living with a partner unless we were in like a marriage or engagement sort of situation.
Yeah, and I feel pretty similarly. I value my independence, and that's something that I look for in a partner as well. So
that's why he's here.
That's why I'm here.
Do you have any debt?
I do. I do have debt. I have, I believe, $19,000 worth of student debt left that I'm working on, and then some credit card debt here and there. But I try to kill it every month.
I have a little bit of credit card debt because I carry a balance until my statement and then I pay it off in full as much as I possibly can. I have had situations where I've had a lot of credit card debt, but we handled all of that and I'm on a better path now.
What was your financial upbringing like? How was money talked about growing up?
Money was a major source of stress in my family. I would say as a kid, I felt like I was very much a financial burden on my family because when things would come up or I would need things, it would be either a very large discussion or I could just feel the energy in the room shift. Like, we don't know if we're going to afford this. So yeah, it was mostly challenging because like I said, my parents split up when I was, I guess, around 10 or 11 years old. So in most of my formative years, my mom was just trying to make ends meet. We had food stamps and other government benefits. We lived with certain friends and family members throughout different times during my teenage years. And, I felt very trapped by my financial situation. And because the only way that I knew to get out was to go to school, find a job where I could make a decent living, that was kind of my mission all the way through school, was to try to do well so that I could do that and gain some sense of freedom, which I feel like I have now. So,
for me, I grew up in a fairly affluent suburb in New Jersey, although I would say that compared to the other people in the town, were a bit less better off. My parents both worked full-time jobs. My dad was an entrepreneur, and my mom at times would take seasonal retail jobs for Christmas time expenses. The way we talked about money was more about setting aside the expenses that we needed, like food and bills and groceries, and setting that apart from spending money and money that we could use freely. So I wouldn't say that it was a really prevalent conversation in the house, but it did seem like my parents had a system between each other. What has been the biggest change in your life since changing social classes? Are you treated differently?
My, oh my. The biggest difference in my life, in my personal life, is just the feeling of being able to get something if I need it or if it's going to be a convenience in my life. So if it's pouring down rain at midnight and I need to get home, I know I'm like, oh my gosh, it feels so good to be able to call a car right now. Or if there's an event coming up and I have nothing to wear to the event, instead of, feeling badly about myself or being like, I don't know if I can go, I'm like, okay, for this one event, this one time, you can go out and get something. Like, that sense of freedom has been amazing for me. That's exactly the reason why I pursued the path that I did, was to gain that sense of freedom and that feeling, and to, I guess, lessen that feeling of being trapped by my financial standing. And then in terms of being treated differently, I would say not to a massive extent, because it's not the money that makes people treat you differently. It's kind of how you use that money. So yeah, obviously I'm able to get nicer clothes. I'm able to get my hair done when I want to. I can get jewelry and purses and whatever else somebody might get when they have money. And it's those things that cause people to treat you differently. I mean, that is one of the main reasons people end up with inflated lifestyles because they're doing things to impress other people and make themselves look like they belong to a specific class. But in general, I don't feel treated differently because of my money, but sometimes, yes, I do feel treated differently because of how I choose to present myself at times. So, which doesn't have to relate to money all the time. There are plenty of people who buy nice things on debt. So,
how has my life changed? I think the biggest thing is a sense of security. Growing up and then into college and living alone after college, there was always kind of a worry that it might not be okay. And I can feel pretty confident now that, I know that the rent is going to be paid, and I know that the bills are going to be paid, and that they're not going to come calling me asking for collection and things. So I think that peace of mind can't really be understated.
next question. What money habits have you kept from when you didn't earn as much? What did you not keep?
Well, I definitely kept this desire to see money in the checking account. I think before it was, if I got over 1,000 or over 2,000, I was like, ooh, okay, I'm doing good. And I don't have a firm number, like that anymore. But, that sense of like, ooh, I'm okay is still there.
I do still spend on my credit card pretty much only, but I did not keep spending money that I knew I was going to have later on my credit card, which is what I did when I didn't make a lot. Not even my first job. I'm not even talking about when I was making $75K, but in college, I would go on the spring break trips with my friends and go here for winter break. And I'd be like, don't worry, my summer internship, I'm going to pay this all off. And so I would do that literally every year. And then it meant in the summer, I didn't really have much because it was all going to the debt. But I don't know. My brain was just like, I know I'm going to make this money later, so it's totally fine. But now I realize, like, you are going to make the money later, but you're going to have other use cases for that future money. It's not just to pay off old stuff that you bought previously. So, yeah, big difference for me. What is the biggest financial secret of your industry? Wow, that's a tough one. Now, in the age of TikTok and social media, I feel like most companies and industries don't have very many secrets left to share. But I would say one thing that even people in the industry don't realize is, so in tech, oftentimes your company will give you unlimited vacation, which sounds amazing, but in reality, it basically saves them money because oftentimes when you leave a company, you get to take your vacation days as additional compensation. And so you don't get to do that when you have unlimited vacation. And then secondly, statistically, you're more likely to take less of it anyway, because instead of just using your days because you know that you have them, it's more of like you have to ask permission for days, and that makes people pretty anxious. So I would say if you are entering a job or a career where you have that, just use your days and enjoy them.
What has been your biggest financial mistake? I tried to get rich off crypto. And like everyone else, I put money in when it was popular. And unlike everyone else, I didn't get out at the right time.
I did.
So she did. So I've lost some money on that, but I didn't commit anything overly ambitious. I think I'm probably generally a financially risk-averse person, so I recognize it for the volatile market that it is, but that didn't quite stop me from losing money in it. I'm next.
Uh-huh.
Okay. How do you share expenses? With me, I presume.
Oh, okay. So we don't live together, so we don't share rent or bills. But for me in a relationship, just like going on dates, traveling, getting some food, whatever, I personally like to let either one of us take the full bill. I do not like splitting bills. And the reason why is because to me, if I feel like, okay, this is an equal partnership, we're here contributing equally, we could split, but that almost feels like, tit for tat, eye for an eye, like we're in this kind of power struggle. And I don't like that. I like to take care of my partner. I like my partner to take care of me. And so we equally take care of each other. So I like for us to just, oh, I got it this time. Oh, no, I got it this time. Or like if we're traveling and it's something more expensive, like a hotel or flights, it'll be like, oh, well, I got the hotel. Okay, I got the flights or something like that.
Yeah, we don't really share expenses outside of that. There has been a time where you helped me out with a moving cost of my own because I couldn't front all of the money at once, but we just pay each other back,
Yeah. If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self any piece of advice, what would it be?
To not be afraid of a credit card. I watched my parents kind of have disputes and stress over credit card bills, and I heard, like, oh, you never want to be in debt and stuff like that, and I didn't quite understand that credit is a good thing. So if I could sit myself down and, teach a lesson on what credit cards are and how to use them, I think that would have helped me. I could use it even now still, to be honest.
For me, if I could go back and give myself at 18 any piece of advice, it would be to pursue my own path. I feel like I was told so many things about what jobs I could earn a decent living with. And because of the financial stress I went through as a kid, I was like, okay, I've got to do one of those jobs so I can be okay. And so I get to school and I'm like, okay, I only have 2 or 3 majors that I can do and be okay. Because in my mind, it was, I could do computer science, make money that way. My school didn't have business, but we had economics, which is basically the theoretical version of business. And, make money that way. Or I could do pre-med and go to med school, or if I wanted to go to law school. Yeah, sure. So those, in my mind, like those were the only options. And I honestly didn't really want to study any of those things. So I put myself through a major that was very uninspiring to me. I had a very inspiring minor, but it wasn't going to pay the bills. So, and then I ended up in a number of jobs and internships that were just really, again, uninspiring to me. And now I feel like now that I'm in my mid-20s, you know, it feels great to be financially stable, but I see other people around me who have been pursuing their own paths from day one, and they are reaching the same levels of financial stability as I am, but they have much more fulfillment in their jobs, in their careers. Now, who's to say I would have been able to achieve that? I don't know, but yeah, I do feel this like urge to do something that matters to me and that I actually enjoy, and figure out how to do it in a way that makes me money. Because I feel like we're all smart enough to do that instead of just doing what everybody else does, even if it works.
If money weren't the main factor in your decision, what would you have majored in, given the choices at your school?
Yeah, I probably would have majored in my minor, which was philosophy. I loved all my classes. I loved all the theoretical papers that I got to write. My professors were cool. The other students in my classes were cool. It just really felt like me. And then I probably would have minored in music, because now as an adult, I feel like I'm just getting back into music. And that was something that I was obsessed with as a kid. Like, I wanted to be a songwriter. That was like my dream job. And so now I just feel like I'm like rediscovering myself and just blacked out for like 5 years.
Those song royalties can pay pretty well though, sometimes.
They can, but it's risky business entering that industry.
Yeah. What is your rent? Would you say it's average, low, or high for your area?
For my area, well, I chose to live in New Jersey because it is a little bit cheaper than Manhattan. So in New Jersey, I would say it is slightly a little bit lower than average, but if we're just talking about greater New York City area, since that's where I commute to for work, it is extremely low. And I love that. I pay $1,900 a month, utilities included, 1 bed, 1 bath. I have an extra room that can be used as an office, but I use it as a big closet. And I have a bathtub too, which is pretty cool.
A clawfoot bathtub.
Clawfoot tub, which some people, you know, that's kind of polarizing. That's why I didn't say it was a clawfoot tub. Some people hate them.
I think this is a really validating question for us after having chosen to live in New Jersey. So I pay $2,000 for a 1 bedroom in Jersey City. I probably get to, when all said and done, maybe $150 for utilities, internet, and all that, because it's not included for me. But I would say that for the area that I live in Jersey City, it's on the lower side. And like you said, exactly, compared to the greater New York City area, it's a steal.
Do you have any savings/investments? What is your best saving strategy?
I do have savings and investments. Ever since I started this job, I began to split savings up beyond just one savings account. So I contribute to an investment account, which is kind of like a staging area where I move to my real investment accounts once I feel ready. And I can now save specifically for travel, which is not something that I was able to do before. And that's been really kind of rewarding to see that number grow, because I think, oh man, I can use this to go to Europe or California or something.
Or to all the weddings that you're going to be forced to go to in
That's
the next
true.
few years that
true.
are very expensive.
Saving strategy. Oh yeah. Saving strategy. I'm good at, I think. If I don't have the money in my immediate account, my debit account or my checking account, when I open my Chase app, then to me, it feels like I don't have it. So I won't spend too much money.
Cool. Yeah. I have very similar investments to you, I think, because I tell you how I invest and then you copy me.
It's true. She's a mastermind.
So I have an emergency savings, which is 6 months of my living expenses. I also have a travel savings that I contribute to every paycheck so that I can afford to go on the inevitable trips that will come up. And then, I also have an investment savings, which is where money goes. And then I decide, should I put in my Roth? Should I buy I-bonds? And then, of course, I have my 401k. And I feel like for me with savings, it's probably because of my upbringing and my experience with money as a kid. But if it's in my checking account, I'm going to spend it. I cannot have money in my checking account. So as soon as I get paid, I have it doing like direct deposit into all the necessary savings accounts. And I literally put enough in my checking account to pay my rent. And then I spend on my credit card, and then I pay off my credit card. I like my checking account to be as low as possible.
In what ways is your job different than you expected?
You guys, as kids, we would watch those TV shows. Everyone would be carrying their briefcases and their suits, and they'd be going to work. So that was like business. And then tech was like beanbag chairs and
Ping pong tables.
Yeah, I mean, you have that. Ha, cool. But anyway, they made work look so fun and chill, and you just come home, you eat your dinner. They never cry on the couch after work or deal with the stresses and pressures of actually being an employee. But I've dealt with a lot of that. And I also feel like I didn't expect work to take up so much time, because I feel like in school, yes, it was also like 7 or 8 hours a day, but you had your free periods, you had your recess, you had your gym, you were hanging out with your friends at lunch. Like your whole life was at school, whereas at work, your whole life is outside of work, and there's just not a lot of time to tend to the rest of my experience. Oh, and I also was not aware that a lot of the work and studies that I was doing at school were going to have nothing to do with the actual job. I feel like a lot of the jobs that we do, did we really need a higher degree to do them? Or is that just like a barrier to entry for people into an industry? I was shocked. I was like, dang, I could have been doing this in high school, huh?
Yeah, I do think it's a barrier to entry into the industry, because pretty much every job you get in tech, unless you are explicitly hired as a senior engineer, they're going to train you for.
It's me?
It's you.
Okay. What are your biggest workplace struggles in your industry?
My biggest workplace struggles in my industry, I think that a lot of technology in the industry is actually very self-taught. You know, the job will train you to do it, but they'll only train you insofar as so that you understand the tech stack and what, you know, kinds of things can be expected of your role. But when it comes to actually implementing a solution or using a library or, you know, writing code, a lot of times people are looking up how to do that or watching a tutorial. It's not really like common knowledge, I think.
I would say probably right now it's the work from home versus in the office thing. So I feel like there's a bit of a power struggle between what employees want and what employers want, and just trying to like understand some of the reasoning why each party wants what they want is definitely a struggle. And it's a struggle for me too, because I graduated and had about 6 months of work in the office, and then COVID happened. So to me, this is not going back to normal for me. This is like the crazy thing. It's like going in all the time. So it makes me really uncomfortable. And I enjoy the flexibility and freedom that comes from working from home. So it's a challenge for me.
Yeah, maybe it's important to put that decision on the individual employee then. Because I know that I do work a little bit better in the office just because I feel more free from distraction. But I do value being able to work at home.
And they don't care about that. Yeah. They just care about your output.
Right.
This is actually the last question. What do you wish people who want to join your industry would know?
I think, unfortunately, there is a barrier to entry into tech surrounding the degree that you have. I would like everyone to know that, you know, anybody can learn how to, you know, write code and program and, you know, create applications and things. And a lot of people do that. They go and make their own personal website, and that is a feat in itself that you don't need a college education to do. But sometimes jobs have, you know, compliance laws and quotas that they have to hire a certain number of graduates, or they can only hire graduates for a role. So if you are a person who does not have a computer science degree or similar, and you want to get into the tech field, then you'll have to find a place that doesn't have those restrictions, I guess. And also not feel bad if they turn you down, because it's not your fault.
Maybe that it's not going to be the get rich quick scheme that you think it is when you're growing up, like in high school. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to go work in finance, as if that meant I was going to make millions of dollars or whatever. Like, you do make a good living, but every role is not going to get you a new Mercedes-Benz to roll around in. You're probably not going to have an apartment in Soho or whatever. Like, yeah, you make a living, but it's not going to be the $1 million salary or whatever that you dreamed. A lot of times you got to be either really high at the top, which can take decades at finance companies to reach that level, or you got to get out and start something for yourself.
Yeah, well said.
Cool. I think we did it.
I think we did it. I'm out of cards.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for joining us. Hopefully you learned something, and if you have any advice for us or anything that we said that was, maybe not right, let us know.
Yeah, always trying to learn.
Exactly.
And get better.
You gotta keep a growth mindset.
Yeah.